welcome back, everyone. This is episode number 7 of Let's Talk About That, a Union University podcast. Today, we are in for a wonderful, encouraging, fun conversation with our dear friend, Joe Ball. My name is Fran Thomas, and I'm the host for this week's show. Thank you so much for listening, and as always, let us know if you have any questions at all. Our contact information and a few resources will be listed in the show notes. All right, you guys, enjoy the show. We're so thankful for you. All right, Joe Ball, welcome to Let's Talk About That, a Union University podcast. So glad to have you, my friend.
Yep, happy to be here. Excited to listen to the podcast. Already a fan, subscriber, so honored to be on it. It's been fun listening to. So.
Oh, that's fun. Guess what, Joe?
What?
This is episode number 7.
Lucky number 7, right?
Lucky number 7.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's so funny to say that because it's such a baby show, but here we are, and we're so thankful to have you here. I feel like I've known you a very long time. I could not begin to even try to imagine how many years ago I was first introduced to this person named Joe Ball, but I feel like I've known you for a long time. I trust you. I appreciate you. I've really also at the same time watched you grow and develop in different ways. So I'm really, really thankful to have you on the show. Okay, let's start with just basic stuff because there are people listening to this show that are like, okay, great, but who in the world is Joe Ball? What do you want people to know about you, Joe? What do you want to share with us as far as like your history with Union?
Definitely, yeah. Well, first of all, my mom's probably never listened to a podcast. However, if this is her first podcast listening to, hi, Mom. I'll have to show you how to do this over Thanksgiving break. But
that's awesome.
So my name's Joe, last name Ball. Always like to kind of signify that first. And I have the privilege of serving in the Office of Student Life here at Union. Been doing that since the summer, took on a new responsibility. It's been a lot of fun helping lead things like new student orientation, welcome week, homecoming. So we just finished a really incredible homecoming week. I know y'all have talked a lot about the Buster Bowl. Obviously, Cluck is not in the room, and I just would like to tell all of Cluck's fans that we did not fare well in the Buster Bowl, but we had a great time. We won't discuss the score, but it was a lot of fun and good to see Cluck, who's apparently skipping out on the podcast today. Good to see Cluck out there playing football. So he did in fact play. We had a great time. But so I get to work in student life with an incredible team. And then really how I got to Union and got to Jackson. I grew up in East Tennessee and grew up in the mountains of East Tennessee. Grew up in the public school system. In high school, really got connected to my church. Felt called to ministry. Through that, God did some really incredible things and started this college search. I'm a first-gen college student. Didn't know how to do the college thing. And ultimately, I know now it was God is sovereign and has a plan, and that plan is just so clear now to look back and think about it. But I started applying for colleges, basically knew I wanted to do ministry, knew for sure that youth ministry was something I was called to at that time. Started applying to colleges that had a youth ministry program. Union at that time had a really great youth ministry program, and applied to 8 different colleges and universities, all either a Bible college or a Christian school. Had really, honestly, I remember my list. I listed them out 1 to 8. Union was actually number 8.
Oh, and, how about that?
I think one, I'd never met anyone who'd come to Union. Didn't know anyone from Union.
Well, and let's be real. Like, you were on the other end of the state.
Literally, yeah.
So I feel like that may be kind of a common thing since you're over there in UT land.
Definitely, yeah. So literally, my hometown, Newport, Tennessee, small town. It goes Newport, North Carolina mountains.
Oh,
right?
wow.
So it's literally on the other end of the state. So it's like moving to a different country here in West Tennessee. But ended up getting a great financial aid package. I think one of the things that we even talk about here, and one of the things we need to address even in this podcast, Union isn't a cheap
Right.
college. We're an expensive place. Also, but we make things really affordable. And that was honestly just a testimony of my life. I remember finding out how much college would cost, and my parents, I have a twin brother, have an older sister who's in college, and they're like, we can't do this private school thing. And really, in many ways, through a lot of circumstances, one being a guy named Robbie Graves, who just helped me get here. It was very clear that I was supposed to be at Union. So I came to Union in 2006, not knowing a single person.
Terrifying.
Moved myself across the state, hopped in my old Blazer and drove across the state, showed up here, scared to death, didn't know anyone, didn't know if I could survive college. In many ways, a lot of times for a first-gen college student, it's really hard to be successful if you don't know what to do. And that's where I was at. Got here. Union was an incredible place and still an incredible place, and was able to connect with some people who mentored me. And we talk a lot about being transformed around here. So I think back to like high school Joe and really not knowing what I was doing. And now I like to make the joke that, I got here, didn't know anyone, and now I have a key to the place. It's kind of, and love this
now
place.
I know everyone.
Yeah. So was a student at Union, graduated in 2010, started working in a church, worked in a local church here in Jackson. Loved it, but there was always a sense in my heart that I wanted to come back and work at Union to be able to give back. So I was just so transformed by this place. God just used so many men and women to invest in me and disciple me. So I knew I wanted to come back and serve. So always in the back of my head was, if there's ever a really great opportunity at Union, I'm going to take it. I'm all in. So fast forward, graduated 2010, 2017. I was contacted about a position in our Office of University Ministries. Got to oversee discipleship, help with chapel, and really kind of one of the things I want to be known for is one-on-one discipleship. I want to disciple students at a high capacity. And right now I'm single, so I have the gift of singleness. So I'm able to do that with really high capacity. And so working on a college campus is just incredible. College students are all around, really eager, want to learn. So did that for several years here. And then this past summer really kind of had a really great opportunity to step over into the Office of Student Life and help more with programming and things like that. So I would say what brought me to Union, God worked that out. It's part of God really working that out. It's just incredible people being around me who've invested in me and believed in me. And then a little bit of luck, I think, too, just to be in a place like this.
Yeah.
So,
And how fun and wild to have experienced all of that. Because I was not a student. I mean, I went to the University of Memphis, or Memphis State, as I still call it. So to be able to have that experience as a student and then be here now for many years. You had that, some ministry away from Union.
It's
in
my
the
mission
church.
trip away from Union.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. And so now to come back and to be so invested, like it has to be kind of weird sometimes. Like, wait a minute, I'm not the student. I'm the one that's doing all these wonderful, very important things. And I just think that has to be absolutely incredible and fun and wild and exciting. And I don't know, I just think that's really cool that you have that perspective.
Yeah, it's good because I have confidence of coming here as a first-gen college student who didn't even know how to survive college. So I got to experience that. I've gotten as a youth pastor, got to send tons of my students to school here and watch them grow and learn. And now I get to serve here and get to invest in students, get to help with on the administrative side and see programs take place and welcome new people. And it's just been an honor. I think Union, while we're not a perfect place, is a great place. And I'm just a living testimony to God's blessing and the men and women who invest in this place.
I love it. I love it. So thankful for you. Okay. Thank you for sharing that parts of your story. I had forgotten that you were a first generation student. So that's just a whole unique, different perspective too that you have. And bravo to you. That's scary and hard. I'm really proud of you for doing that. Okay. I'm always so curious. And I know as soon as I ask this, literally you have 100 plus answers in your mind, because when you've been here as a student and you've worked in a variety of different ways, it's just like, oh my gosh, what do I pull from when it comes to what are some of my favorite experiences here? Like when you think about being here, and you can answer this from the student perspective, you can give me both. I don't care. There is not a wrong answer, but it's so important. I'm always the glass is half full. I tend to be super optimistic. I love hearing people talk about this is what I love, because the world is just a lot. It's just, we don't need to talk about that. Nobody's going to disagree with us on it. Can just be scary and challenging and overwhelming, all of it, whether you're choosing college or you're like me and you're well past college. It doesn't matter where you are in life. We want to hear the good. Tell us some of your most favorite fun experiences, memories. What have you just absolutely loved?
Yeah, I'll start with being a student.
Okay.
Because my whole world changed. You know, small town, East Tennessee, come to a place like Union.
Did you think you were coming to the big city, Joe?
Yes, I think it's a much bigger city for sure, and then just kind of a completely different world, right? East Tennessee and West Tennessee are different, and different types of students. So I remember first day on campus meeting a guy named Kennedy, who was on the basketball team. I love sports. Kennedy was on the basketball team, 6'8", from Kenya, great guy. I'd never met anyone from Kenya.
Yeah.
I never met that in that way a division, or we're NAI and a basketball player, like, and we're like in classes together, live beside of each other. And so I think one of my favorite student memories would just be the chance to meet people from all over the world.
Yeah.
And I think about this now, I literally have friends who live all over the world, and I met them at Union, right?
Yeah.
And God just sends people from all over the world to this place. And so I think thinking about like student memories almost immediately, it was, wow, this is a big world that I live in, and God is sending tons of people here to 1050 Union University Drive for that reason. So I think thinking about that, I think most impactful memories and opportunities in college, I was hired as an RA. I
didn't know that.
I was a resident advisor.
Stop.
And that was probably, in thinking about just being transformed and leadership development and the man that I am today, I think about the men and women who invested in me as an RA. So the first person who comes to mind is Miss Kathy Southall. She was the director of residence life at the time, and just a sweet, godly woman who prayed diligently and encouraged. And she was actually probably the first person I remember just telling to me, hey, you can be a really good leader on this campus. A guy named Luke Pruitt, who's now in Memphis. Luke was an RD of mine, and I worked for him and worked with him. And Luke taught me how to love people and walk with broken people. And as an RA, you get to be around a lot of that. And then think about Brian Carrier, who came on my junior year, Brian came on my junior year, and a guy named Ken Litcher who came my senior year, and just their investment they had in my life. So I think in many ways, I do what I do today at Union because of Miss Kathy, because of Luke, because of Brian, because of Ken, because of Dr. George Guthrie, because of just the many men and women who believed in me and invested in me. So, and thinking back to like, you know, I've got lots of core memories, and probably even some I can't share on the podcast because I like to have a lot of fun, right? You know, and so that, and then I think
you shouldn't have brought that up, Joe, because now I'm going to find some way to pull that out in the next 25 minutes. But carry on.
Well, I'm a verbal processor, so you have a high probability there. So, and then, you know, even thinking back to working here and serving here, I love our events. We have so much fun.
Yeah.
I think my favorite thing about working here, honestly, is just there's always something going on, and I love our athletics. So I love supporting our teams, our sports. So even walking over here, I was walking with the soccer guys. He's wrapping up his career here at Union, and just getting to like walk with him and ask him how things are going and how he's doing, you know. And so I love that. Favorite memories. I think pretty much anything with basketball. So I was in the student section as a student. I love cheering on the basketball team. Those are kind of core memories that I have to get to be a part of. So.
I love it. I love it so much. Okay, so I was having a conversation with somebody earlier today, and we were talking about just the value and the importance of seeing our students, or that they get to see us model and show them what that looks like, what discipleship, what mentorship looks like. Because a lot of students, they don't have any context for that. I said when I was growing up, I didn't have that person in my life, so I've had to learn how to do that as an adult. I think it's something that students, I don't know, even if they're not discipled and mentored up close, but from afar, they see it happening, and I think they do have a deep appreciation for it. And listen, just from the basic level of leadership and discipleship, I'm just so thankful, just like you are, for people that took the time to invest in you, because you have no idea what the Lord is going to do with that. And it's absolutely an extraordinary place to be able to sit and look back over years of your life and say, that person, that person, that person, that person. You're doing that for people now, and somebody years from now that you will not have, may or may not have a lot of contact with. Who knows? But they're going to say your name in that. Like, I just think that's just the sweetest, most beautiful, incredible thing. So, yay for you. Thank you, Lord, for those people investing in you. And that's just, couple that with just your heart for ministry. It's just like it all exploded in a very good, beautiful way. And it's just fun. It's fun to see and listen to you talk about that. All those people, I hope they listen and they go, oh, looky there. Joe said my name. Okay, you've kind of talked a little bit about this, but let's kind of think specifically. So if there are ears listening to this episode and they are considering union, they are either parents or they're high school students or grandparents and even current students. But when you think about your role within student life, similar but different to what you did in the Office of University Ministries, what makes you excited about the work that is currently being done? Granted, I know that you're new and you're still learning things, but you do have the context of history with Union, so you do know some things. Even though you may not have experienced them yet, you know some things. What do you currently just get so super excited about? Or is there anything on the horizon that you say, oh man, this is good stuff that we're doing and it's new and this is why Union matters and why what we do matters?
Yeah, definitely. I think one of my favorite things about working here is thinking about the people who work here, right? Mm-hmm. And being on the student life side, we have kind of a good size army of men and women who want to invest in students, and just thinking about the people that I get to serve with. The thing that I get excited about is seeing people like you, Fran, investing in students. It's common for me to shoot you a text and say, hey, would you be willing to meet with this student? And you're like, yes, please. And I think one of the things I'm excited about and I love seeing is just the number of faculty and staff who want to invest in students and who want to be present in their lives and who have them over at their home or sit with them in the cafeteria and know their name and things like that. So that's probably one of the things that gets me excited. I love, we'll have, on the student life side, we have so many events, and I haven't even been able to figure out how many events we have yet. But
2,964.
It seems that way. Last year we turned 200, and I think we got close to having 200 events, and it's just nonstop, something all the time. But what happens is, I think people come and serve here and work here, and they want to invest in students. So if I'm not a parent, if I had a teenager in my home, I would want to send them to a place where there are going to be men and women of God who love Jesus, who serve the church, who love each other, who want to invest as their faculty members, as their as people who work in the cafeteria, as people who work on the student life side, their enrollment counselors. Just think about even our incredible enrollment team right now. I know most of them. I've gotten to watch a majority of them grow up here, and just watching them invest and care so much about getting students here. And so I think one of the things that I just really think about a lot, the incredible people who come to serve here, and just the opportunity to empower them and encourage them to invest in students. So if I'm a parent listening, I'm like, I want to send my kid to that place. I want to send my kid to a place where people will know their name. If they have a crisis or a need, they'll know who they can reach out to. And that's something that I love about serving here. And one of the things I'm excited about, even thinking about, we have a new strategic plan called Protoness. And if you were to open it up and read it, you'll see that discipleship is written all over that thing. And I think Union historically has made a difference for the kingdom, has invested in people. We're so plugged into our local churches around here. Our faculty, staff, and students make a huge difference locally, all over the world. And one of the things I think that's happening as generations are changing, as college students are changing, the way we need to disciple students is changing in many ways. Our message hasn't changed, right? But and I think the thing that I'm hopeful that will continue to grow, and we're seeing this happen so much, is that our faculty and staff will continue to be empowered and trained to do that. And that way, there's we just keep seeing more people invested in. And here's the reality: our administration, they do that, right? So it's not uncommon to see someone who is in leadership at Union eating lunch with a student. It's not uncommon to see a professor walking down the hallway talking to a student. It's not uncommon to be sitting in chapel and see a faculty member sitting beside a student in chapel. It's not, I see this pretty regularly. I'll see students sitting down and praying with a staff member in the hallway, right? And I think thinking about what separates Union from other Christian colleges and universities and even state schools. I don't have a lot of experience with our sister schools. I know there's some incredible places out there, but I do know that while it is possible for a student to slip through the cracks here, it's really hard, and we care so deeply. So I think, try not to turn this into an info commercial about Union, but I just have so much confidence in this place because I know the people who work here and serve here and have prayed with them and cried with them and invested in them and watched them invest in students. So that's something that I'm excited about, and passionate about, kind of all in the same thing.
Well, and two, listen, Joe knows that, I have 3 boys, and just from that parenting standpoint, from the very real understanding that even though we provide the best that we can for our families, for our kiddos, for our students, we all know, whether we like to talk about it or not, admit it or not, they come to college, they leave our precious little safe homes, and they come and they've got to figure some things out in these 4 years, right? And it's not always, I don't want to dare say all the time, because, well, hang on a minute. I will say this. I do believe that every single student, I know every single student is sorting something out over the next 4 years, whether that's something within their faith, their belief system, whether that's relationship issues, whether that's choices that they're making academically, socially, it doesn't matter what you're talking about. They are sorting things out and they're figuring things out. And I will say this all the live long day about Union, is that we're aware of that. We know that. We don't expect our students to come in and live these just precious, beautiful, godly, 100% of the time lives. We understand how hard this is. So from the parent side, I need to know that people like you exist, that all that staff and faculty that you talk about, they exist. Because when that starts kind of surfacing, that wrestling stuff out, that sorting things through, there are people willing, able, and ready to come alongside our students when it's hard, when they are questioning a lot of things. And this is a safe place to be able to do that. And in today's world, I'm like, sign me up for that, because I need that. And I need to know that my child is being influenced that they are being shaped, that they are being led and formed in a really healthy, appropriate way. So,
yeah, and I think one of the things I think we actually do pretty well at around here, a lot of times you'll hear Christians talk about kind of being afraid of the culture. And there's a lot of fear, a lot of fear in life, what's happening in the world. We live in a broken world, and
always has been, always will be.
Always has been, always will be. It's difficult times. Times are changing, things like that. I think a couple of things that help, as I think about serving here at Union and getting to walk with students through some really difficult things. In many ways, Union it is a good place. We're not a perfect place. We make mistakes. We miss things like that all the time. But one of the things I think we actually do really well at is helping students to answer the questions they're actually asking. I think a lot of times, kind of in our Christian world, our churches and our schools and just our leaders are responding to questions that a large percentage of people actually aren't asking. So on a college campus, what that looks like is a lot of times a place like Union's being asked to respond to things that our students actually aren't asking or working through. And I think that's one of the opportunities we have, even thinking about discipleship, and because it's so relational here. It's rare for a student to like send an email and say, "Hey, what do you think about this?" It's very common for the student just to come up and say, "Hey, can we talk? Can we meet?"
Right.
And even the questions that we're helping our students navigate and think through, I think are actually questions that our students are asking and wondering about. So when it comes to things like faith crisis, 18 to 22-year-olds, I'm only 35, but as any 18 and 22-year-old, one of the realities is they're going to ask deep questions, right?
Sure.
And we get students from homeschool, from public school, from private school. We get international students. We get students from all over the world, and they're all asking lots of questions. And I think you're right that Union can be a safe place to ask questions. And one of the reasons why I have so much confidence in our faculty and staff is because they're there for those students, and they let them know, one, it's okay, and oh, by the way, I've asked those questions too. Yes, things have changed, times have changed, but I think one of the opportunities we have, and one of the things I think we actually do well, is we practice convictional kindness around here. We know who we are at Union. We know what we stand for. We're going to stand on God's word. We believe in the authority of the gospel. We believe in the power of the church. We believe it's our mission to advance God's church all over the world. We believe those things. But we're also going to be kind to our students. In a world where it just can be, even Christians can be somewhat mean. I think we do a good job, not a perfect job, but a good job, just being convictionally kind and walking with our students along the way. So, I say that because when I was here, I was asking big questions. I say that because as a faculty and staff member, I've asked big questions, and it's been okay for me to ask those questions, right? And it's been okay for me to ask those questions out of our leaders and friends and faculty, and it's okay for students to ask me those questions, and it's okay for students to ask our president, Dr. Dubb, those questions. They do that, right? They ask him deep, serious questions, and he answers them thoughtfully and carefully and invests his life along the way. So, I think that's one of the things I'm really proud of at Union. We're just doing our best to answer the questions that students are actually asking.
Well, and like you said earlier, we say a lot to, be transformed. We want our students to be transformed. I myself want to be transformed. That's coming out of Romans 12 too. And part of that transformation, let me just say, Joe, I'm a smidge older than you, but that never stops. We're constantly learning, we're constantly growing, constantly evolving. We're never going to arrive. So we're always wrestling things out. What I'm wrestling out today is maybe not what I was wrestling out 5-10 years ago, but it very well might be. So just that safe place to just ask the questions. And I've heard our president say many, many times over the years, and I think that it always grabs my attention. I think that it is worth considering. If you're a parent choosing where your child is going to go to college and who and what is going to shape them and transform them, is this. I've heard him say, that these college years are the second most transformative years of your entire life outside of 0 to 5. So 0 to 5 comes first. We get that. We understand that. But the second most transformative years of your life is happening between 18 and 22. There's not many days that I don't consider that in how I'm serving, how I myself am growing, how I'm leading, how I'm coming alongside students. And when you just kind of let me just kind of get weird. I don't know if this is weird for a second, but you just kind of zoom out of all that, and you just, if you had this heavenly perspective, just this big overarching view of what's taking place at 1050 Union University Drive, you would just be like, wow, yes, it's imperfect, but goodness gracious, we are doing the thing. We're trying our absolute humanly best to carry out the mission of the university and be a part of transforming lives so that they can go out and transform the world, for the sake of the gospel. So anyway, okay, listen, we've said a lot of lovely, wonderful things about Union, but we've also said we're not a perfect place. So I am also, as optimistic as I am and a glass half full person that I am, one of my favorite things, I don't know, it's really interesting why all of a sudden that I love to do this, maybe just with age, I don't know, just wanting to examine who are we or who am I, and the things that I'm involved in. What are we doing? Where does there need to be improvement? What opportunities are there for us to either start something, change something? I don't know. Joe, you and I have had countless conversations about, let's do this. I'm all about, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. There's so much I want to do. But when you consider yourself, you were a student, you've got all these years here now, working here, where do you see that place for opportunity, whether that's as a whole or just you because of the work that I do, because of my passion and my care and my love of, I see this as a great opportunity for the university right now.
Yeah, I think just thinking about our work and the opportunities that have come our way and are coming our way, one of the things we have to realize is that the times have changed, and 18 to 22-year-old development, those are important, significant years. You said that earlier, and the reality is when you talk to anyone, they almost always go back to 18 to 22 when I was in college, right? You hear those statements all the time. So I think one of the things that I'm hopeful that we'll continue to learn and work on here at Union is really understanding this generation, just their focus, the things they care about. There's so much technological change that happens, and I can't keep up with it. I've stopped trying, right? I really don't know. I feel bad, even
I feel bad.
I've admitted to students, I guess I'm going to admit to the podcast, this Taylor Swift phenomenon. I think
Joe, don't get me started.
I'm going to open up a can here, but the reality is I could maybe name a couple of her songs, which is what,
yeah,
right?
Right.
So I think one of the things that I think the opportunities we have here as we're thinking about Christian higher education, really we're 200, so we're going to start a whole nother 100 years, and unless the Lord comes back, Union's going to be here. We're going to continue to be strong. God's been faithful. We can trust Him in that. We know that this is a blessed place, and so the opportunities also create the challenges with just changing dynamics in our country, around the world. One of the realities is that the student body population has changed at Union. If you think about kind of living in a post-Christian world now, where coming to a Christian school doesn't always indicate that you are a Christian.
Right.
Students are working things out in a different way. There's so much that happens there. So I think one of the things that we've got to realize and figure out, and I think this is even for parents too, and churches, is that it's almost as if students are really starting to own their faith at a later time in their life, where it was common as a youth pastor to see a 16, 17-year-old really own their faith. So a lot of our programs, a lot of our opportunities, a lot of things that we do here is kind of assuming that a lot of our students really own their faith. They really know the scriptures. So we make a lot of assumptions that maybe aren't always like good assumptions to make, and not that we need to water down anything or simplify things, but the reality is like generations have changed, so even thinking about just the past several years and the loneliness epidemic and the anxiety, struggles with anxiety, we're missing something. And I think one of the things that we could change, which would take a lot of work, because you just brought it up, we have all these ideas, right? We need to slow down.
Oh, darn it, Joe, don't say that.
We need to be still and know that God is God, right? And if you think about how busy your churches are, think about how it's like Christians are just addicted to being busy.
Well, it's a badge of honor.
It is, right? And it's like serve. And we should be willing to serve and want to serve. But I think one of the things, if this would take a lot of work, but really just to slow things down, because our students,
let us model that. Yeah. Let us model that it is okay to slow the train down, to actually trust the Lord to direct each step.
Yeah. And we'll see God work, right? And a lot of times I think, we talk about distraction a lot, and I like to think about spiritual warfare, and one of the realities is that I think we're just so busy and so distracted that we don't really have time to do that deep work and think through those things. So think about these students who are asking these really deep questions. They don't know how to slow down and process and think about it, or even think about kind of you hear the word anxiety a lot, and normally when you hear that, that's a triggering word where everybody begins to think about how they're anxious. But Philippians 4 comes to mind. It's one of my favorite passages. Don't be anxious about anything, but in everything with prayer and petition, let your requests be made known to God. And my favorite part of verse 7 is the Apostle Paul says, and the God of peace, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds. And it's almost that we're so busy. And this is me too, right? I'm a workaholic and go. I'm so busy that I don't ever slow down to be reminded that the God of peace is, in fact, guarding my heart and my mind. And so I'm even thinking about, we're in the fall here, and parents are starting to think about college. High schoolers are starting to think about college. That's a scary, anxious time.
Yeah.
I think instead of it like just being consuming, it's actually an opportunity to trust the Lord. It's an opportunity to see that God is for you. It's an opportunity to be reminded that God is guarding you. And yeah, because I can look back to not knowing what to do with college when I came here, and all the anxious moments along the way, and can be like, wow, God has been protecting me and guarding me and guarding my heart and my mind. Because we do live in a broken world, but so I think a few things change. If I can make some changes around Union, I would slow this place down tremendously. But that starts with me, honestly. I've got to slow myself down. But on the other side of it, I would just help people to understand that. So even thinking about college students who are anxious, I think it's an opportunity to figure out, okay, what's going on in your life. We look at these things and we're like, okay, that's a problem. No, I think it's actually an opportunity to figure out, okay, what's actually happening here. So one of the things I think we have an opportunity to do is to slow down and to help people just feel loved and seen and known. Loved and seen and known by people who serve here, but ultimately loved and seen and known by a holy God who walks with us. And so I think there are other things I would change. Like I would have more people at sporting events. Lots of other things I would change. Yeah, I think those. Just thinking about opportunities around here.
Listen, believe it or not, Joe, I know you're shocked by this, but I would agree with you wholeheartedly on let's slow down. Let's slow down for all the reasons that you said, because we get one shot with these students for these 4 years that are the second most transformative years of their entire life. And if we do anything right, let it be that through academics, through all the things that they're involved in, all the reasons why they're here, all the experiences that are going on, that they walk away from this place knowing the Lord, loving Him, pursuing Him more than they did maybe a week, 2 month, year ago, that their heart really is beginning, if not already, set on fire for the Lord.
Yeah.
And that's only going to occur if we go about it in a slower process. You cannot just, guns a-blazing, do that with the Lord. Like, it's just not going to work.
I mean, Jesus, he would go away and pray and slow down and tell his disciples to do that.
What if we incorporated that and asked people to do that? It would be the most awkward, uncomfortable, like nobody would know what to do. And then they'd just be like, no, I'm not doing that. Because we're not wired for it. So I think that's great. If you want to start that in some form or fashion, I will be behind you 100%.
Well, I think it just starts with us.
Yeah, modeling it for them.
Practicing Sabbath,
going
on walks with students, telling them, hey, you need to quit something.
Yeah.
I love telling students, hey, you need to quit something. Quit.
Gives them anxiety.
They're so performance-minded.
Yes.
They've just grown up in this performance-minded world where they have to go, do. They've got to build their resume and their transcripts and all those things. It's like, no, actually, the most spiritual thing you could do right now is go take a nap, right? And
for real.
So a part of that is modeling Sabbath and rest and joy and peace in the Lord. Yeah.
Okay, let me put you on the spot. I don't know if you're prepared to answer this. And if you're not, that's fine. Because if somebody puts me on the spot and they ask me my husband's name or my kid's name, I'm like, hang on a minute, wait, what? Is there what are some of your favorite resources for, whether it's the parent, the student? They're just like, I'm ready to slow down, and maybe I do want to dig a little bit deeper outside of the scriptures. That's always our number one, resource is, let's get in the Gospels, let's get reacquainted with Jesus. But is there a book? Is there, I don't know, what do you like to offer students if they're ready to go deeper with the Lord?
Yeah, I think you asked me about books, Fran, and that's dangerous because I recommend books all the time.
Okay,
and resources
give us no more than two.
Okay, so first one, I think it's a newer book. I think everyone's read it at this point. It's called Gentle and Lowly by Dane Ortland.
Yeah.
I think in our performance world, especially with college students just need to be reminded, and all of us need to be reminded, that we're loved by our Heavenly Father, in that as Dane Ortland talks about, the only place where Jesus' heart is mentioned, Jesus mentions his heart is as gentle and lowly in spirit, and he just cares for us so much. So that's one of the resources I would encourage students to read. Another book that's been really helpful, really anything that's from Peter Scazzaro. He does books called Emotionally Healthy Spirituality, Emotionally Healthy Leadership, Emotionally Healthy Discipleship, Emotionally Healthy Church. So I just gave you 4 books in one. But
do you have one that I could borrow? Because I've never heard of those.
Yeah. So it's and really just kind of a lot of our students, they've been trained to talk about their emotions, but they don't know how to do it, and they don't know how to be emotionally healthy.
Right.
So I think specifically, a lot of times I recommend Emotionally Healthy Leader, because it seems that our students who are leaders are the ones burning out and really struggling. They're lonely and burned out and tired. They got so much going on. So I think Emotionally Healthy Leader, and because I know you said 2, but I'm going to give you another one. John Eldredge wrote a book called How to Get Your Life Back. It might just be Get Your Life Back. I needed it so much. It was one of those books that I got so busy, got pretty close to burning out, got really close to walking away from ministry just because I was just so busy. And I remember reading that book and just kind of resting. And the reason why I point that book out, there's also an app called the 1 Minute Pause app. And it's amazing what happens when you just slow down for 1 minute or 3 minutes or 5 minutes. You pause and you breathe and you pray. So those are kind of some of the main resources I typically recommend.
I love that. Everybody needs a good resource. And you know what I'll say I love about Gentle and Lowly? If a student is not a reader and they're like, oh, everybody always recommends books, I don't like to read, or I don't have time to read, Gentle and Lowly is a very easy read. It's not a scary, overwhelming read. And so anybody could do that. And you know what? The Christmas breaks are coming. That would be a great time to maybe reset and refresh your mind. So
definitely. Yeah. Read a book, go for a walk, learn how
Take
to pray.
a nap.
Give somebody a hug, right? And just trust and believe that God is for you and He's got you, and it'll be okay. Yeah,
it is going to be okay. Thank you, Joe Ball. You are a fantastic conversation, very encouraging, inspiring, thought provoking, and allowed us to into your life and let us see how much you've grown and how you yourself have been transformed through this place. And now you get to be a part of that. Just how fun and kind of the Lord to let that happen. That's really sweet. So thank you for being here today. Thank you, everybody, for listening to another episode of Let's Talk About That. And today we talked about it, and I'm very glad that we did. We'll see you next time. Have a fantastic day. I don't know about you guys, but I am so thankful for Joe Ball, and I'm so thankful that you listened to this episode. Okay, have you been on campus yet? We sure would love to have you. You can sign up for a visit by going to our website, uu.edu, and search Campus Visits. But maybe you've already done that and you just have not filled out an application. We would love for you to do that. And guess what? We've got a fee waiver code for you. Just put in the word TALK, all capital letters, TALK, and you do not have to pay the application fee. Okay, we love you guys so much. Thanks for listening to this week's show. Have a great day.